and she has struggled with, unfortunately, repeatedly. And at some point, if you have a policy that is not followed, it doesn't really continue to be a policy. And if you don't make some sort of consequence to that, then I think people aren't going to take it seriously. And it's you know, and here's why that matters. It matters because nobody should speak for me. I should speak for myself. There are many organizations from whom we can share information about people's rights and what people can do to protect their rights. That's simply the issue. So anyone who is extrapolating from this that it was because of the content of what she said is wrong. I think people deserve to know their rights, and I think there are many ways for that to happen. I will say, as we ask people to comply, as she did many times, as we ask people to comply, we also expect that any ICE agents that are in our city would follow the law just like we ask people to follow the law. That would be the expectation. I also want to remind you that in our consolidated government, I have absolutely no say over how any of that is handled. We have an elected mayor, we have an elected sheriff who has a partnership with ICE. I know the sheriff is committed to a constitutional way in dealing with people, and I would expect that to be the same with any ICE agents that come into this city, okay? At the end of the day, I am a mayor for the people with whom I agree, with whom I disagree, and most importantly, for the most vulnerable in this community. And I want them to know that I am here for them and for them to know that they are a valued part of the mosaic of this city. So with that, I'll take your questions.
I know you said she wasn't speaking directly to undocumented immigrants here. It did seem as if some of the statements, you know, taking the kids to school and going to the grocery store were kind of focused in that area.
Well, it may have seemed that way. And again, I don't think the way she did it here and giving that information without permission was the way she should have done it. But my point is that there are a lot of people, whether they should be afraid or whether they're afraid because of things they're seeing, are afraid. And I think to tell people, look, you have rights in this situation. If you don't have to go out and you're scared, don't go out. If you are concerned, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have representation. But if you are stopped, comply. Don't fight, comply. I think those are all good messages, but not one of them said anything about being undocumented. Not one. So I think she was, I don't think there was anything she said, and as I said, I cleared this through the General Counsel's office. There was nothing she said that was illegal. And frankly, if you watched what she said, it simply came from a place of compassion. This community is hurting. This immigrant community is hurting. And anybody who can't see that, I don't really know what to say to you. I think the other thing that is really unfortunate about all this, and this is one of the reasons for the policy, is that I am a mayor who has a Hispanic outreach coordinator to try to make sure our Hispanic community, which is now more than 12% of our population, can get connected to economic growth and jobs and grow their businesses and all of these things. And yet here I am now, standing here talking about something over which I have no authority, giving, frankly, grist to the political mill that the same old hyper-partisan actors are only too happy to grab onto and try to make a big deal out of. And that's how I'm spending my day, instead of trying to grow this city and making sure people get what they need. And so there are reasons these policies are in place. But I don't think she said anything that was wrong.
Is focusing on a procedural squabble, though, via the policy, I mean, send the right message to Latino community members and business owners who, like you said, are a growing portion of the city. Yet we're having an entire news conference here based on an employee on leave whose rhetoric you say you agree with. So, I mean, how is putting her on leave kind of taking the right stance for the city right now?
If someone repeatedly violates a policy in this office, there has to be a message sent. I had no control over whether it was going to be picked up and used as as a political whipping post. That happened. There's nothing I can do about that, and that's why I'm addressing it. I don't want there to be any misconstruing of what happened here. That is why you hear what I'm saying.
Why prioritize sending a message about the policy, though, rather than try to amplify the rhetoric you agree with about complying, knowing your rights?
Well, first of all, because I'm trying to clarify why the action was taken. I'm not the one that made the action public. Do you see what I'm saying? When somebody violates a policy and we deal with that, then we deal with that. It was made public by other people. So I wanted to set the record straight as to why she was put on administrative leave. Because you can't just decide to do what you want when you work for somebody else. You can't.
Somebody described that as just being comfortable with it being put under the rug, though. I mean, how's that?
Well, clearly I'm not comfortable with that because I'm telling you how I feel. I think I have been very out front about my feelings about our immigrant community and the concerns they face and the fears they face. I think I've been very out front about that several times, in fact. But I don't want you to misunderstand why this employee was put on leave. That's the bottom line. So you can take that any way you want to take it. I'm just trying to be as honest as I can. This is certainly an issue that I understand stokes fear in our community, and I hate that. And I want people to know their rights, and there's not a thing in the world wrong with that. But what you cannot do when you work for an administration is you can't go do whatever you want to do. You can if you're just a regular citizen, and if that's what people want to be, they can do that. But you have to follow the rules, and that's how it is.
Does that not?
Did she make the video here in her office?
She did.
At City Hall?
She
was
did.
She on the city clock at the time?
She was.
Okay. And have you decided at this point whether you're going to, let her come back and continue in that role, or whether this is reaches a level where you're going to dismiss her from city employment with your staff?
Look, she is extraordinarily passionate about what she does. She's very good at what she does. We love her. She's fantastic. She's going to have to decide, if this is something she can do. Many people come into the political space from different places. Some from the activist community, some from corporate America, some from different places. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction. You've got to be okay with the message. And I think that hopefully she will decide that she can live by those rules, because I would hate to lose her, honestly. But everybody's got to be able to follow the policies.
So what's the status currently of the employment investigation, and what's the timeline for it to be complete?
I don't really have a timeline at this point. We have to have some conversations, and that's really the bottom line of it, And in fact, I'm going to have some conversations with the whole staff. I am spending an inordinate amount of energy on something that truly, I think is, like I said, just grist for the political mill. And I think it is energy that I could be much better spending trying to help people in our community, including our immigrant community. And yet, this is what I'm doing today because of all the misinformation that's out there.
One thing she said in the message is that ICE was pulling over, vans based on the type of work, air conditioning, construction. Is that accurate? Do you have information?
I don't know, but what I'm told is these are things that have been all over online, that people were talking about this all over the place. So she was sharing something that many people had shared. I don't think that this was any sort of inside information or any sort of specific information that would put anybody at risk. Obviously, we want our people to follow the law. We're not looking for any agent to get hurt. We're not looking for any person to get hurt. We want people to follow the law. And as we've said repeatedly, we will follow any law as long as it is constitutional. And we expect that on all sides.
Pardon me. Have you been briefed by law enforcement or ICE on the current level of enforcement here in Jacksonville? And has that been increased in recent days?
No, I have not been briefed. As I said, this is a contract that ICE has with the sheriff's office. And it is completely in the purview of the sheriff's office. I have not heard a thing about any sort of increase in presence. I know they've been here a long time. There's been a years-long partnership between the sheriff's office and ICE. So this is not something new. I think that what has happened is people have seen what has happened around the country, and they're fearful, And so people are obviously looking at trying to gather as much information as they can. But we have not seen, as far as I know, we have not seen violent instances here, and I hope that we don't. But I think the best way to avoid that is to keep people from being in a fearful posture.
We want a couple
The
minutes.
Attorney
I want to
General
throw it over
will
here.
X.
You guys have any questions?
Go
Slide.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I hope this isn't too repetitive to one of the previous questions. I understand that in terms of the investigation, you said that no timeline is really put together just yet, but is there an idea of when Ms. Cardona might be able to return to the position? Or just return to her job here?
Yeah, she's not been fired. She's just on administrative leave.
Right, I'm just saying in terms of when that administrative leave period may end and she returns to her regular.
The Attorney General wrote that, great, his response to this was great. This is illegal.
Well, it isn't. So, I spoke about this earlier. As I said,
You should know the law.
these are. I went straight to our general counsel. He looked at everything. I don't know that he has even looked at, this gentleman has even looked at what was said. There's a lot of political fodder that happens with this. This has become really a huge political issue, right? One that frankly I would love to not get involved in on a regular basis, because I got a lot of work to do to bring Jacksonville together and make Jacksonville a city that is an example for the country. I care about Jacksonville and the people here. And I will do everything I can to not only be a good mayor to every constituency in this city, but also to try to make sure that we are lifting everybody in this community. I have said that so often. I have no interest in bringing Washington politics to Jacksonville. And yet the people who are on that hyper-partisan lens will constantly do that and will look for any opportunity in, and we just gave them a golden one. So that is that's the frustrating part for me. I have a lot to do. There's a lot to do to make this city everything it can be, and this is an unfortunate distraction.
Now, lots of Hispanic-owned businesses are struggling right now, just taking a toll due to either fears of ICE or actual ICE arrests. How are you trying to provide aid or even guidance to those businesses, and how are you providing that now with the Hispanic Outreach Coordinator on leave? So,
well, listen, like I said, I mean that's been the job, and that is ostensibly her job, to make sure that we connect those business people to the resources that they need, to make sure that we are maximizing their impact on the community. That's the job, and that has been what she has been doing. So that's where I would like the focus to be. And certainly allaying fears is part of that. There are many organizations in this city that are offering assistance in that regard. It doesn't have to come from her mouth. It can come from the mouths of people that are advocates in the communities for those particular issues. And so, or it can come from my mouth. But the bottom line is, the policy is, I speak or the communications office speaks. Or you ask permission and you get permission. And if you don't have that, you don't do that.
and you're taking issue with a public post then, because it seems like she is doing her job by, spreading that information, amplifying it over social media to Hispanic community
There
members, immigrant community
are
members.
many resources we have shared over and over again that she knows very well, that have direct links to everybody in the Hispanic community that can share that information.
Mayor, can I ask, I know you said you agreed with the content of the message, but ICE may or may not want it out that they're focusing on this particular street, this particular corridor, they're doing these targeting enforcement in this way or that way, and it may or may not be how they're doing it, I don't know, but do you agree with the content in terms of somebody going out and communicating by social media in the way she did? Would you do that? Would that ever be something you would do and say, look, it's appropriate for a city official to provide information about what law enforcement's doing? And
Well,
how it's
unfortunately,
doing it?
David, we never had that conversation because there was not permission that was asked. But personally, I would not. I don't have any issue with the people who are advocates in this community doing that particular thing any more than I have a problem with some driver saying, "Hey, there's a police officer running a speed trap over here." If they want to share that information, it's entirely up to them. I don't think that is something that this office needs to be involved in.
Last question.
Any other notes you'd like to just tell small businesses, especially immigrant-owned small businesses that have really been struggling with loss of customers?
I would simply like to tell them that Jacksonville loves them. We see them. They are an important part of this community, and that I know these are very, very difficult times. I am hopeful that at some point in this country we will come up with some sort of comprehensive immigration reform where we can do something that makes sense of this entire situation we find ourselves in, that gives us strong borders and at the same time allows us to treat people humanely and to not make small businesses fearful for their futures. You've got a lot of people who are here legally who are struggling because there doesn't seem to be a clear delineation all the time of who is detained and who is not detained. People need to follow the law, and that includes everybody.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.